what's today? February 27th? Oh, yes. February 27th. Almost out with this month. Jack Purdy and Jake Grant here with Signs of the Satland 158. I missed a couple things this weekend because I was at a big old Atlanta United game. Jake, I don't know if you saw, but they scored in the 93rd and 99th minute to win, down 1-0.
Yeah, I recall somebody having a lot of angst in our From the Rumble seat Slack, and then I checked the score and saw that they had won 2-1, and I
It,
was like, "This is classic us."
it,
But
it,
apparently, it was pretty exciting.
it was really, really crazy at the end. Yeah, Thiago Almada, the guy who played with the Argentine national team at the World Cup, scored both of those goals. So we might have a Messi Jr. on our hands if we're not careful, which also means he's going to go to Europe in like 2 months. So we might have to just treasure this time while we got it. On this side of Midtown, though, baseball they're 7-0. They are fully undefeated. They swept Tennessee Tech this weekend. We'll dive into it more, but Dawson Brown had a fantastic outing on Friday, which I think caught most of us by surprise, I would say, in that he had 12 strikeouts, which we could expect a rebound, but a 12 strikeout rebound, that's something.
Yeah, I mean that'll get you wins, and Tech being 7-0. I mean, no losses. You play the games on your schedule, and that's basically what we said. But we can definitely dive into that a little bit more as we kind of get into it later in the episode.
And then I'll note Angelo Despina hit three homers, one each game. His first one, I was at Friday's game. His first one cleared the trees in right field. Like you mean if you can see, like, they taper off at the top there. It like got to that part near the top of the trees where there's a lot of gap. There's a lot of space between the tops of each trees. I heard it hit something. I don't know what it hit. There was a picture. Zach Baseball put a picture up where it was sitting in front of one of the fraternities. I don't know if that's where it rested or where it hit, but it had to have. It probably cleared Fowler Street, is my guess. Like, it had that kind of distance. Those houses are going to need to watch out if he keeps hitting like that, because he was just murdering baseballs.
This is where I duck back in and say that would be just such a phenomenal place along the side of the road to make that just a tailgating-y, like hangout type patio a la right field in like the Mississippi schools type deal. But that may be more of an off-season conversation. Gonna have to find somebody with some donor money to make some renovations there. But
that would be something. We'll move to men's basketball quickly, since we'll just want to speed through this probably. They lost 76-68 at Pittsburgh. Pitt wore black. I didn't know they wore black as part of their color scheme.
They do. Their black uniforms with the blue and yellow are pretty neat. I'm going to dig in my heels a little bit because I think that I actually learned a little bit about this team from this past week. I think that, we're kind of at this point, right? And I've kind of hit this spot with women's basketball too, where it's like, they're not going to make the tournament. What's the point, right? And Passner kind of repeatedly makes this point in press conferences where they got good a month later. Well, it's about turning that success that you find in February into success in the next season. And I think one thing that this team at least has going for it is that, one, he's right, they are improving. I mean, just on the face of it, they lost by Pitt in I would say a fairly close 8-point game. They were fouling at the end, trying to get possessions back, versus a 71-60 loss at McCamish a month and a half ago, that really never felt close. I was at that game, and it was just one of those, late Passner era last 2 years of just where, they only lost by 11, but it didn't really feel like Pitt was ever not in control. At least Tech, I felt, especially late, had a fighting chance in this game against the team that, Jack, would you have guessed at the beginning of the year that Pitt would be looking at first in the ACC and a first round bye based on the season they had last year?
No, not at all. I mean, just prestige base wise, I'd be like, wait, there they are. I mean, you just assume it's Duke or North Carolina every year. You just don't even think about a different team touching the top two.
Well, I mean, of the top four, the double buys in the tournament for the men, Pitt at number one, Miami at number two, Virginia, classic basketball powers at three, and then Clemson is at number four. So really quite an interesting.
That's good for Clemson that they stuck. I mean, I know they fell off a little bit after the beginning of the year, so that's good. Good for them that they were able to hold on to at least this particular advantage going into March.
I mean, this is one of those classic Brad Burnell every 3 years do something that coaches him off the hot seat just a little bit. But that being said, Pitt, they are ranked this week after the week that they had. They hold a half game edge on Miami. Miami's 14 and 5 full game edges on Virginia and Clemson. So a pretty good team, right? And it's one that Tech, I would say, was competitive with late in the game. Again, it's still them losing. Not ideal. You don't want to go and get further in an already deep hole. But yes, they did lose close on the road midweek at Pitt. And then they came home to host the perhaps worst Power 5 basketball team of all time, whom they've already lost to once this year. At home, Louisville is 4-25 now following this game, 2-16 in league play. Georgia Tech dispatched them 83-67 in a game that was, dare I say, pretty chippy. Jack, I know that you were down.
I was out of commission
down at the Bends, but it was pretty tough. 2 technical fouls called. There's none in the score sheet, but Tech definitely shot. Maybe they called it like a penalty one. They changed all the names for this like in the last 2-3 years, and I'm not good at adapting. But anyways, Tech shot uncontested free throws and got the ball back twice. If you catch my drift.
Yeah.
Louisville played a pretty long lineup. They had, I believe, 12 different guys get in the game. Tech was playing a shorter lineup. That's kind of been something Pastner has solidified around with Davon out on the bench, Javon Franklin, Lance Terry, Kyle Sturdivant, Debo Coleman, and Miles Kelly kind of seeing the majority of the playing time there. I think Fred's got in the game at Pitt, and Coleman Boyd in senior day at McCamish. Jalen Moore giving spells of rest to Javon and some of the other guys on the floor. Where I think I'm all coming back to on this is that it feels like a little too little, a little too late. This team is probably better than their record indicates, but Jack, I don't know by how much, you know?
Yeah, it was going to be tough regardless for one because it's ACC ball, and we were picked to finish last this year in the ACC. So, and then one of the worst teams ever existed. That's one way to put it. It took one of the worst teams ever in ACC history to be worse than us this year, but at the same time, once Lance Terry came back, things did start looking a lot better, and not having him was a gaping hole in the games that he was out, and then especially after we had a rough stretch, he was able to do a few things to help patch things up, and then he was out, and that kind of I think stalled some progress here that we would have seen that may have made some of these games more competitive.
I agree on that take. I think the season really doesn't come down to one guy. It's people not, coalescing as a group. I think, big man issues that we've talked about in and out a couple of times. It's just, they've been in it. And there's 3-4 games that you're like, man, a possession or two flips that game. But, ifs and nuts, right? The good teams find a way to win, and it's tough whether it's a close loss on the road or at home. One last thing I want to get to before we move on to women's basketball, just to give everyone a little bit of flavor for the ACC standings. Tech is sitting at number 13, not number 15. So take that, media. With games left against number 9 and number 10, Syracuse and Boston College are your 2 opponents left on the schedule. Both of those are away. Syracuse, that'll be on the RSN Tuesday night. So as this comes out, you'll be able to catch that if you get Bally Sports South, which if you do, let's be pals, because neither Jack or I or Akshay do. So that'd be great.
We'll have it on there. We got the RSN.
Fair enough. Only free ads for places that we are associated with. Shout out to my dad's State Farm agency. Just kidding. You can't sell down here. Byzantine financial rules. Anyways, they're at number 13 with games left against Boston College. and Syracuse, if you want to catch the Boston College game, that is on ESPNU. So you'll have a little bit more luck. That'll be Saturday with the tournament starting next week. If everything holds serve the rest of the way out, which is probably the most likely case, Georgia Tech would play Virginia Tech Tuesday in the 12 versus 13 matchup. They can theoretically catch Virginia Tech. I'm not sure what good that would do for them other than pride. But I guess 6-14 in the ACC looks a little bit better than 4-14 or heaven forbid 4-16. There's ways that it could shake out. I believe that they could play FSU or maybe BC. They have a 2-game lead on Notre Dame and Louisville, who they split the season series with. So keep an eye on that. You get 2 more chances to watch them before next Tuesday, I guess, when that will be the live to play another day section of the season, which is approached for women's basketball. Is it not?
We're there now, yeah. So at this point, we have no more basketball games at McCamish until November.
That's sad.
All men and women are done. So that definitely was sad. So Sunday, yesterday, I guess we're recording on Monday, was the final women's game at home, where they played Virginia Tech, number 9 seed. Earlier in the week on Thursday, they played at Notre Dame, who is number 10 in the country, led by Olivia Miles, and they're just absolutely fantastic team that has made the leap after showing their guns last year. They lost 76-53 on the road there, so I mean that game was. There's not much to compensate on that, just because it was going to be clear that was going to be a tough game. The odds of West winning that was not much, but also the team as a whole has had a hard time just knocking down shots. And they're getting looks. They're just not shooting well at the moment in time. And so the only scoring 52 kind of sucked there. Cam Swartz only scored 10, and she was the leading scorer in South Bend. And then on Sunday it was a little bit better. It was senior day, so it was a big day for Bianca Jackson, Cam Swartz, and for Nerea Hermosa. I think biggest just in the Tech scheme of things for Nerea, because she's been here for 4 years and has poured a lot into this team and has been, in a way, the most reliable across that whole stretch there. Like one of the most level-headed, consistent players. This year, it may be not as consistent comparatively to if you take the other 4 years, but still just of the most needed assets this team has needed. Cam scored 20, but we just couldn't stop Kitley for VT, who earned like whatever the best honor you can win in a week for the ACC is, because she was unstoppable. Nerea did her best, but Kitley's going to get drafted. She's going to be darn good. There's a reason Virginia Tech is number 9 in the country.
That was not on my bingo card this year in terms of closing the year with 2 top 10 teams being Notre Dame.
We should have figured this out, because they were both ranked at the beginning of the year too. We should have seen this. That's like, crap, this is a rough way to go out.
Muffet had Notre Dame running on a high level for a really long time. It was really just more of a matter of time for when they came back. But Jack, I would like to push a theory out that I've been workshopping. I haven't even mentioned it to you. I have not mentioned it in the chat. I have a thought. Do you remember the Virginia Tech game that we played in February of 2022? So last spring.
Last spring's game against them.
It was on the road.
Would have been on the road, yeah, in Blacksburg. Do I? I think I do. Let me see if I have any notes. I have notes for it somewhere, is what I'm going to guess. Keep vamping while I find my notes in my notebook.
While you go look for your notes, I'm going to flavor it for the crowd. It was on the road. It was in Castle Coliseum.
What day did you say?
It was February of 2022, okay, early February. But I was forced to watch or to listen on the radio due to, reasons of accessing television. You can write in the blanks there. But anyways, I was listening on the radio, and you could very audibly hear their fan base yelling about how we were overrated because we lost. At the time, Georgia Tech, was coming off of a Sweet 16 appearance the year before, had been very good throughout the year, beat UConn, beat UGA, all that stuff that we've hashed through a million times. So while you go and review those notes real quick, my theory that I've all been pushing to is that's kind of the turning point in the trajectory of these two teams. Virginia Tech, pretty good before that game, but it feels like they've been just ascendant through the rest of that year and have played this year at a very high level. Again, they were ranked coming into the year for a reason, and they continued to play very well this year. They're currently 14-4 in the ACC. They're 24-4 overall. That's an 857 win percentage. That's pretty good. They're 14-1 on their home court. Like this is a team that's taking care of business, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, you look at what Tech's done since, and it's kind of like they've trading places a little bit. You've read your notes now.
Maybe.
For a second.
I'm reading them now.
Do you have
yes.
more character?
So Dina Stratmanay did not play that game for one, which is critical because she was at that point not the most important cog in that in that stretch, but she was our most efficient scorer by far when she didn't hit shots. So that was important. Yeah, so that meant Sarah Bates was playing in the starting lineup, which meant we were like a foot smaller. Not to harp on Sarah Bates, but there's a size difference there. Yeah, they had doubled us by the end of the first quarter, 22-11, and Kitley was 5 of 8 in that one quarter, in the first quarter. So like they were, the exact same thing happened a year ago that happened yesterday. We almost came back and got it. What happened here? Bates got a steal and then had some nutty three that brought us in within 5, and then VT hit a 3, and then that was it at the end. Well, so yeah, so it was a close game for sure. Like we did it right. Like we had an 8-point swing at one point that got us from 43-24 to 47-31. Like we were down bad in this game and nearly clawed back. But we lost by 10. We also haven't won in Blacksburg since 2016, so we're not doing that well over there.
Well, I would like to add just a little bit more flavor context to support my little theory here, just because I think it's interesting. And with them not being really a tournament team, right? We got to talk about something. Going into the week in which we played Virginia Tech on the road last year, Georgia Tech was 19-4. Those 4 losses consisted of a baffling 8-point loss. I think it was like the 5th or 6th game of the season against Auburn. Nail biter, sink your free throws, and you win that game on the road at Purdue. A 2-point, just razor's edge game versus number 3 Louisville, and a 1-point loss to a Miami team, which we have harped on.
We should have won that game. That was a bad game.
But we've harped on how we match up against this bully ball Miami team for this entire season, or 2 or 3 of them at this point. So going into that week, Georgia Tech was 19-4. They lost not that close, but kind of close game versus, I think, on the road, at another top 5 team, NC State. But after that Virginia Tech game, which moved them to 19-6, Tech proceeded to beat Clemson once, lose 3 times to ACC play competition, including a ranked Notre Dame team, beat Wake Forest, who was not very good, twice, lose to Notre Dame to get summarily eliminated from the ACC championships, and lose to Kansas, really in an, I would say, arguably pretty uninspired fashion in the NCAA tournament.
That second Wake Forest, like we got past them in the season finale, and then in the tournament, or the ACC tournament, that was arguably our worst.
That was an ugly game.
That was our worst game of the year, and we won. Like we played poorly. Neither team could hit anything that game. Not even Jules Spear was doing anything. So, she may not have played actually. I don't know. I see what you're saying here. Yeah, because I knew where the slide. I knew the slide had happened, and that just been in back of my mind. I was like, yeah, that at some point came in after the new year, but I just didn't diagnose that it was the Virginia Tech game, which I think you're hitting a good spot here in terms of seeing where that was. And I mean, we ran into the Kitley buzzsaw, which you could kind of stop. Which I was in my head, I'm like, oh shoot, I wish we had Kubai tonight, but. Yesterday, but turns out that didn't do much that day either. Kitley killed us. So, I think Nell's going to be glad she hasn't coached against that again, in theory, if she doesn't get drafted. She's a senior, so I think she has another year if she wants it. But that we'll see how that goes. The current deal with women's basketball is they're the 14 seed in the ACC tournament. They're going to play Wednesday night at 6:30 against Boston College. All those games are on ACC Network, so no RSNs to deal with. They left
party
while we're recording. I think they're either about to land or are still in the air on their way to Greensboro, because I saw somewhere on Instagram that they had just left. They're going to practice tomorrow in Greensboro, and then they'll play a Wednesday night. And they
The
play
GAC.
and they play every day if they win because they're in the far left side of the bracket. If they do win against Boston College, which I would say is not an impossible task with any of those teams in that bottom 5 slot that we're in, they would play Miami for the 3rd time this year, and the Cavender twins who have sliced and diced us pretty well this year. So
Please no.
I would hope I think it would be great. For one, this for Camp Sports this is kind of cool. Both of her ACC teams are gonna match up, and it could be her last game. Lord willing, it's not, but she'll get the marriage of both teams there in that game. And so we'll see how this goes. We're 2-3 against Boston College in the Nell Fortner era right now. Which should be better, I would say, but I mean that's what we got now. I know you had some notes about this particular Boston College matchup that we've had in these last few years.
Yeah. Boston College has not been a particularly great team the past few years. They were pretty good last year. Shocker. I'm sure a first team all ACC player was part of the reason why. But they haven't been particularly good yet in the Nell era. Georgia Tech is just 2-3 against Boston College. 2 of those losses have come in their 2 road games versus BC. So, to be fair, just a little bit, those are on the road. The one in 2021 was a particularly bad BC team, but also one that Tech had beaten at home prior to that. Some flavor that was like their 4th game in 7 days or something ridiculous like that. Not ideal
Schedule
conditions.
loss.
Yeah, it's a fixture congestion, as Akshay would say, and he probably did say that. If I went back to the tape, he probably did say that word for word. Just real interesting to see kind of, I mean, I don't want to say struggle with it or play with their food, but like that, it's just not a team that Tech has historically matched up well against in the last 3 years, 3-4 years.
We will probably need if we're gonna win this game. For one, the shooting has to be there. Cara Dunn did not play on Sunday. That's a note. I think she's gonna play on Wednesday. I think she just had a knock, or Nell didn't say why she didn't play. So it's just a matter of they found their shots, they just didn't hit them. So make a few more shots. I think we'll be fine. Cam's on the good side of her streakiness right now, so be nice if that maintained. I think Bianca could probably get. Bianca's done well being more of an assister, facilitator than a shooter, but we just need points. That's the main thing. We scored 53, then 52 in back-to-back games. You're just going to need to score more to win in do-or-die games. Let's move to the tennis court, where it was a lovely weekend outside to watch tennis in Atlanta. But the men were at home. They faced Kennesaw State, won 5-2. They did lose the doubles point. I'll note that Andres Martin and Marcus McDaniel's match did go unfinished. They were at 5-5 by the time that the Chopra-Shokri match was a loss and the McKinney-Sachdev matches were losses. Those were 6-2, 6-3, and Martin and McDaniel were at 5-5, so they were playing a while before they just did need to keep playing. That would have been fun to see pan out. And then they did very well in singles. Martin, McDaniel, and Chopra all won. Sachdev, Shokri also won. So that made things, they won pretty handedly as well. So the points were won pretty easily there. And then on Sunday, while baseball was happening, and right before women's basketball started, and while women's basketball was happening outside, they faced UNC Wilmington. What happened here? That was a 6-1 win. The only point lost there was on line 6, where Bauer lost 7-5, 6-3. Everybody else won, although there was a lot of 3-setters here. Actually, no, McDaniel lost 2. He lost in 6 he lost the first set 1-6. Won the second set 6-1, and then lost 6-0 in the third set. So all up and down there. And then the only other one that we lost was Bauer. But the other 3-setters were Chopra went to 3 sets, Sachdev went to 3 sets, and Shokri went to 3 sets, including tie breaks in the first 2 sets. I was speaking by me in a lot of numbers, Jake. Did you anything of note here? It seems like just taking care of business.
Yeah. In terms of men's tennis, really with kind of the thing I keep circling back on is we said that they needed to pad their schedule in terms of just like getting wins. And that's what they're doing is they're winning the games on their schedule. I think, or the matches on their schedule, if you will. I think 5-2 to Kennesaw and 6-1 to UNC Wilmington are a little bit closer than I mean 6-1 is not particularly close, but
6 was
these
not
are still
particularly close, but it came down to 3 final sets, which could have just saved a
Yep.
lot of things here. So like
Yeah.
it's the thing about tennis. You can lose 3 sets to love, but be like 2 points away in each set from winning.
Well, and I feel like we've said that a couple of times this year, right? You're like, I think Georgia State was one where it was close. Whatever it was, not something you really want to be doing. And at the same time, that's part of what makes this team baffling, right? Is the top line talent, Martin, McDaniel, Chopra, very high quality players, and they're players that keep us in matches, right? They keep us in matches against ranked. South Carolina is number one that comes to mind. We played well against a good Auburn team. I mean, those are Stanford too. Those aren't things that you can just write off because it is something that you have to give them props for. But I don't know. I think the ACC schedule, which is always a gauntlet, men's and women's tennis is always a gauntlet. Like we said, think about it the way you do men's and women's basketball in the classic ACC years, or baseball. Or swimming. It's going to be tough, right? And if this team can just take care of business when it needs to in the ACC, win a game or two of those coin flip ones, they'll be fine. It's just I'm not quite as confident as I would like to be going into it. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. We'll see. I think that we'll see what's their. Let's take a quick look at their upcoming schedule just while we're talking about it. The women also did pretty well. While I'm looking for the men's schedule, they won both of their matches this weekend. One over Kennesaw State. No, not Kennesaw State. Sorry, number 17 Notre Dame, and then 7-0 over Louisville. It didn't load. Are you finding it?
The women's tennis?
Oh, men's tennis. Here we go. Schedule.
No, men's tennis.
Here we go. Now we're cooking here on this super good live broadcasting that we're doing. Next.
Sorry, I was looking up something for the baseball segment. Honesty time.
Wake Forest is next this Friday, and then Sunday is home against NC State. So more conference play happening. It's gonna be good weather this week too. So I think these will be good matches to come out and see. The Friday matches at 5 o'clock. The Sunday matches at high noon. So come out if you want to see some free tennis, free tour level tennis. Because Mr. Martin's tour level, he's gonna be tour level. So get your value while you can. So the women's tennis side, Notre Dame, that's a ranked win. They're number 17 in the country. That was a 5-2 win. Bilchev and Cruz's top line doubles match did lose. Sherabura and Dayaj, that's right, yeah, Dayaj, they won, and then Carol Lee and Garcia Gross won their third line, so we got that done. And then in singles, Carol Lee beat Paige Freeman. That was the number 14 seed. Carol Lee beating number 81 ranked Paige Freeman. Bilchev won her in the second line, and then past that, Cruz won her match, and then Marsh won her match. So Notre Dame won 2 singles lines, and it was Alejandra Cruz's match that clinched it in a tiebreak in the third set. So tight tennis, got it done there on the road in South Bend, and then a quick and easy sweep over Louisville. Not much there. So I guess the men are the easy comparison here, but in terms of they took care of business very handedly against Louisville. No one got closer than their second line doubles in terms of points, going to 7-6 and then losing 7, and then they won 7-5 in that tiebreak. And against Notre Dame, these are good. These are the high quality wins that they need, and these will be very important resume stuffers when it comes to rankings in the NCAA tournament.
Oh yeah, and I mean the ITA rankings are a bit cumbersome at times for tennis, but in terms of just other notes, right? Obviously, number 17 Notre Dame, that's a quality win. It's something that this team has shown, and I think will continue to show that they're capable of doing. Probably a team that is on rankings watch for the next week or two, depending on how they play this week. I'm not sure if when the ITA goes to their weekly updates. In fact, I'm going to check that. Going to check that now because that will happen at some point here. It's the women. They are. Yeah, they're going to weekly team rankings are already up, and then they'll go to weekly singles and doubles instead of bi-weekly on April 4th. So look out tomorrow for rankings. This is very much a team that's kind of on that borderline as is. So worth looking there. They were top 25 rankings. They're currently number 30. in the rating. So look for that to change based on these results. One thing to point out about the Louisville match. They ranked top 75 now. I thought it was top 50 back in the day. Anyways, that's in the computer rankings, so you can't game those for coaches poll stuff. That is math. Math is math. One thing about Louisville, though, is that they were experimenting with the doubles lineup. I don't think we'll have too many opportunities to see Carol Lee play with Rosie Garcia-Gross again this year. So it's something that is a blessing to have, right? It's I'm not saying that they were messing around, but if you have the ability to play around a little bit with some of your results, that's a pretty good spot to be in.
Is it not? Yep. Fiddle with your lineup before it gets too late. That's a big thing. Baseball's has been doing that. Softball's been doing that as well. So prime experiment season.
And that's the thing too. It's not even just about getting different pairings together. It's getting Kylie Pilchev and Alejandra Cruz to play Louisville's number one, right? Yeah. That's a good thing for them. And they did play around with it in the Notre Dame match too. It was probably a thing that they practiced this week and said, all right, Carol and Rosie, you're going to be the 3-court, like get used to it. Let's go.
They threw out the same doubles lineups for both matches.
Yeah. But they definitely are unusual pairings. Yeah. So just something to keep an eye out there. Of course, they still had Lee at court 1, Bilchev on 2, Mahak Jane on 3, Alejandra Cruz on 4, Garcia Gross on 5, and Ruth March on 6 for both matches. So not a ton of shaking up there, but it's fairly deep team, and one that I think we'll see their stocks rise if they continue to play like this.
Yep. All of the matches, the singles except at Notre Dame, except for Garcia Gross's, went to 3 sets. So that was some darn good tennis there that they were able to pull out some good wins at the end. All right. That was a lot in the front half. A lot of stuff there. Let's take a second and hear from Section 103.
Yeah. As always, this podcast is brought to you by our favorite apparel providers. That would be section103.com. Section 103 is the very best place to get logos new and old in very comfy apparel for Georgia Tech, including the brand new seal. I know I've mentioned that a couple of times, but that's really hard to find on things yet. So good job to them for being on the leading edge there. One thing we don't really talk about here much because we kind of focus on the clothing and the apparel and that kind of stuff. But Section 103 does have stickers as well. Their logo sticker and a Fight, Win, Drink, Get Naked sticker that looks great on a laptop.
Drink more.
That's not something I want to shout into my microphone at 7:45 p.m. on a Monday night. I think my neighbors might be a little bit concerned if I do that. But definitely something to keep an eye out for. I know they're sold out of the ATL sticker right now, but these are the exact kind of stick it on your laptop, stick it on your water bottle type thing that gets people to have a little bit of pizzazz on their work laptop or something like that, which is always a lot of fun, or something on a cabinet at work or on your desk or something like that. So great to have around, and not something that I think we talk about enough, but certainly something that is it's affordable for what you pay, and also in addition to some great t-shirts as well.
Get your merch, y'all. All right, let's go to softball. They were in Charlotte this past weekend at the Queen City Classic hosted by Charlotte University. They played 5 games, 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, and 1 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. Lost 2-0 to Boston on Saturday, and then won 3 in a row, 7-6 over Penn State, which featured a Sarah Beth Allen walk-off homer after Penn State came back late. Then they won 9-8 over Kent State to finish that day, and then the next morning, Sunday morning that is, they won 7-4 over Kent State, which marked Eileen Morales' 250th win as a head coach. So kudos to her. And at that point, that was a 3-game win streak, which is the longest they've had all season, before falling to Charlotte 7-3 on Sunday afternoon. They were ahead in that game and then fell off, but at that point also Chandler Dennis and Blake Nillman had thrown a bunch of innings, and just the other arms just eventually just needed a takeover, which Sylvia Voiles did pretty well, just the bats just weren't there. And Grace Connolly and Abby Hughes are on 5-game winning streaks. Abby Hughes is technically the team's leading hitter at 500, but she's only played in 5 games compared to everyone else who is up at 10 to 14 games. So I mean, I would say this isn't an unsuccessful weekend considering it's been kind of up and down. To see a streakiness and clutch ability is nice to see here. Um, but at the same time, still a lot of runs were allowed, scored a lot of runs. So it's for a 3-2 record feels representative, or even a 2-3. We would have probably said a lot of the same things. So just there's a lot going. It's hard to tell if this team is really pointing up yet. I don't think it pointed down this weekend. Yeah, what do you think there?
I feel like it's kind of flat to be honest. I think the thing that I keep hinging on is like, yes, 3-2 sounds a little bit scary. That being said, I think the one that really sticks in my craw, if you will, is that Boston U game. They were, to their credit, 105th in the country in strength of schedule last year, which is something. They were 96th, or sorry, not 96th. They were 57th in adjusted RPI. So in maybe not an at-large quality, especially not in in Patriot League play, but they weren't a bad team last year. We don't have any RPI drops yet this year, which makes it kind of hard to suss out outside of the top 25 polls that do get released. But like I said, I don't think Boston U is that bad of a team, and Charlotte certainly is not. I was actually pretty glad to see that Tech was going to go up and play Charlotte. It's kind of like a UNT, University of North Texas type situation, where it's one of those teams, and I think they're also they're both Conference USA, or at least they were last year. So kind of that same boat of getting unheralded because you're in a conference that's not the SEC, who's sending 14 teams, to the tournament, which really crowds everyone else out. But last year, Charlotte was a top 30 team or top 40 team, depending on the metric you're looking at. But one that is quality. So it's interesting that Tech has challenged themselves in a very peculiar way to where their losses, while not always great, I think I'd feel much better saying, they were 4-1 coming off the weekend. But if those teams are playing anywhere close to what they were last year, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I just think that we saw last year's team win more of those, borderline kind of same place, same neighborhood type games, if you will. And right now, I think Georgia Tech is not really proving themselves to be in that neighborhood, if you will. And I'm going to pull up Massey on the side because I know he's already updating his stuff just because I don't have the nitty gritty. But is that a fair take?
Yeah, I think I mean, between losing various games to Illinois and Wisconsin, and a couple of games at the Buzz City Classic, like it is the problem of there's just some of the tight ones you just got to be on the right side of. And you have to be able to grit and grind your ways to wins and find different ways to win. And they haven't fully gotten to that point yet. Reese Hunter, I'll note, has been playing more as of late. She started 8 of the 9 games she's played, and she hit her first homer of her career this weekend. Currently, the RBI leader is Mallory Black at 13. Connolly is at 10. Emma Kalf sitting at 341. She's started every game along with Connolly, Soleo, and Mallory Black. Besides that, the only other players with 10-plus appearances are Madison Dobbins, who has appeared in 14 and started 14. Sarah Beth Allen, who power-wise is the power hitter this year. She leads the team in slugging at 640. Second to Kalf, she's at 645. Kalf's at 756. And Mallory Black also has 4 dingers as well.
Jack, I've got a question for you. I just need to pull up the stat that I'm looking for because it was impressive to me. A lot of times in softball, you get a player such as one I'm going to shout out at the end of this podcast, Taylor Roby from Louisville being a great example of this, who is the star pitcher and the star batter. It's not something that we see as much in baseball anymore, but right. I mean, essentially a lot of great teams have a Shohei Ohtani in softball, if you will. Casey Ricard, who, hit a couple of home runs this weekend. She held Tech off the board against Boston University. Her whip is like a 1.26 this year and 4-1 in the circle. Not even their best pitcher by ERA, but definitely their like biggest innings eater, if you will. I want you to guess kind of just to bring it back into perspective for people, how many hits did Tech give up to Boston University? Just off the top of your head.
Oh, it was only like 4 or 5. Like, it wasn't a lot.
It's 4, right? And I don't think that you can ding the pitching staff against not the greatest Boston University team in the world in the form of Boston University. But if your pitchers, Voiles, Dennis, and Nelliman are combining for a 4-hitter,
That's always
is it unreasonable to expect like the bats to do? You can't really do much better than that, is my point.
Yeah,
right?
I know softball has a higher prevalence to super low hit games, just because there's fewer innings than in baseball, and the pitching can be extremely dominant. But yeah, only 4 hits should be make upable in somehow. Maybe you still get now. Of course, 4 hits can be done in so many different ways that score runs and whatnot. But still, it was only 2 runs and 4 hits, so I think it was it should always be doable. I'm also looking at the pitching stats. Chandler Dennis has only thrown 6 fewer innings than Nelliman so far. Nelliman's at 39 and Dennis is at 33, so they're pretty equally splitting the load, considering as much so far. And then of the games that they've started, Nelliman started 8 games. Dennis has started 6 games. Kinsey got 1 start. But so they're pretty much flipping back and forth as much as they can. Dennis has a 4-3 record, but record only means so much, as we've all learned in the sabermetric era. And Voiles and Kinsey are both at under 100 batters faced or at bats total on the circle. Voiles at 47, Kinsey at 59.
I pulled up Massey. Massey's got Charlotte at 45th with a plus 18 run differential. They're at an 8.04 in his rating. Then right behind them, you've got Boston University at 52nd. They're 11-3 at a 7.96 in their ratings. You've got Penn State at 68th. That's a 7.79. Georgia Tech at 71st, 7.78. And then Kent's down at like 175. So the teams that Tech was playing close, they're all kind of in the same neighborhood. And I think that's kind of the vibe that fits the vibe that I got from the weekend, right? Yeah. Kind of how they traded blows with Penn State. They beat Kent. But then, playing close versus what are they called? Boston University.
Yep.
Poor Boston University, by the way. When you Google them, it pulls up still, even though you say Boston University softball, Google still gives you the widget for Boston College. And it's ironic because Boston University is probably a better team, at least this year so far, than Boston College.
Better than Boston College in a number of things, if I had to guess.
We'll talk about that in just a second when we get to track, but no spoilers there.
All right. Just to wrap up, schedule-wise, Tech has a bunch of home games in a row. I will be at the game tomorrow night, which is against Georgia. So if you see me out there off my computer, come say hi if you find me. Then we have the I-75 tournament against UNI again, Southern Miss, and then a game against Brown. So some Ivy League action. Woohoo! We played Dartmouth last year, so we're getting an Ivy a year. That's fun. Then that'll be it for the weekend before some other. Oh, we play Auburn here as well. That's after our next episode, though, so we'll talk about that then. We're gonna skip swim and dive just because they had a last chance meet that there was not much there. NCAAs are coming. Just have that in the back of your head. Track is doing stuff, dude. Like this is the most track content I think we've had that's been like notable in a while.
Yeah, certainly is. Track is a team that's often had a lot of, and kind of goes for cross country too, a team that's had a lot of like top shelf, like elite stars and names that we've seen come across. Obviously, the clear answers there are something along the lines of Bree Matthews, Nicole Fegans, Nahom Solomon, right? There's been a lot of names, right? But in terms of team depth, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's always kind of been up to that same level of performance. But I mean, in terms of the top line this time around, we kind of saw the same thing play out in Louisville this week, did we not?
Yes, we did. So Jameer Gibson got another school record this time in the weight throw again, 20.69 meters. He got 8th place. So obviously breaks his own record because he had the record that he set about a month ago. Shanti Popacosta won the high jump at 1.89 meters. Third in the NCAA. Is that third in the NCAA just so far this year, or okay, cool. So that's gonna be
it'd be like the third ranked 200 butterfly time that's happened on the year.
All right, so we might have some action in Eugene from these guys. That'll be fun. Then Shalia Harris got third in the 60 meters at 7.35 seconds because indoor runs 60 meters and not 100. And then Jameer Gibson again in the shot put, he got third at 18.44 meters. And overall, I mean, that's kind of all we had there because the women finished 12th and the guys finished 14th with 14 points. Women got 17 points. So I don't know how scoring works in the ACC championship. This was ACC indoors, by the way. I should recognize what meet it was. I do not really know how the scoring works in that. I did not grow up doing that. So
they're kind of goofy. So I didn't grow up doing it either. Yeah, so the men finishing with 14 points in 14th place. It's when you look through the results, I think that means that a decent chunk of those came via Jameer Gibson's third.
It may have all been Jameer Gibson for all we know.
Third place finish. That we had a couple other kids finish like 7th, 8th kind of neighborhood. So and again, both of those teams kind of wound up coming out in the wash. You had Papacosta finish first at one point. You had Shalia finish third. So I couldn't tell you exactly how they're scored event by event because unlike swimming, they don't put the number next to each finish. So you kind of go like, but this is where honestly, probably my ignorance is showing just a little bit. But
apologies to those that know how this works. We clearly do not, but we were very, very glad to see Jameer and Chancey and Shalia do well this past weekend. Yeah, what you got?
The thing that I never quite get about this, and if anyone has any like clarity that they want to sprinkle in, the one thing that I would love to pick a coach's brain about is how they pick like events and selections that people go to in the preseason and the regular season, because it seems to me that we never really see full team meets for track unless there are some particular circumstances like Tech's home meet. You'll see everyone and then some for that. But I don't know, just one thing that I would love to develop between now and outdoor, or now and next year when we're talking about indoor again, is just a better way to meter stick this team outside of their ACC performance, because I feel like just with the natural limitations that Tech has, like this 12th 14th place that you see for the women and the men, even with some like we said, pretty excellent finishes, it's just one thing that I'd love to have more perspective on myself. Over the years, it's been like, first it was, okay, I like volleyball, time to learn volleyball. Then it was, I know pro tennis and pro golf, time to learn the college equivalents of those. And I feel like this is like my last frontier, if that makes sense.
We're almost there. We've almost conquered college sports of the 11 that we have to keep track of.
And I know that it's weird saying this after I've done this for 5 years, but it's one of those things where it's just like, I take it at face value.
It takes a while. I mean, there's still sports I'm watching now. It's like, oh, Lordy, I still clearly do not know what I'm talking about. Thankfully, not these. Talk about we go to a next one, golf, which I watched so much of on the PGA Tour recently, but in Tech specifically for Georgia Tech, they're number 8 in the golf stat ranking right now. Last week they were at the Water Sound Invitational. Jake, you did more digging on this than I did, so I'll let you take the floor on this one.
Yeah, so golf is a team to watch this year. They're up to 8th in the golf stat ranking, as noted. There's a couple other polls out there. You got the coaches, and I think Massey does a ranking on this too. Massey ranks everything. Just have that guy decide everything. But yeah, no. Water Sound Tech was down 8 strokes, rallied to come back within 1 to finish second. The team they were trailing was number 1 Vanderbilt. I think that's further proof that this team can play with anyone. Trademark when they're on. However, Vandy did get, to quote, off of the scorecard and off of the team page. Vandy got 3 birdies and an eagle on 17, while Tech got 3 birdies on 17 and 2 on 18. So it wasn't quite enough to get them in the mix for that. I think that would be like Bruce Hepler's 69th or 70th tournament win in his tenure at Tech, which is pretty phenomenal, the staying power he's had. But yeah, pretty tough to see the Water Sound just coming up a little bit short. All of Georgia Tech's finishers wound up in the top 22. That was Connor Howe down tied for 22nd with Ben Reuter, who I believe was Tech's individual on the weekend. You also had Bartley Forrester finishing in 14th. You had Hiroshi Tai tying for 9th. You had Ross Steelman finishing alone in 7th, and Christo Lamprecht finishing tied for 2nd. He was very consistent across the board and was just 5 strokes off of the leader, Frederick Kitcherup. Wow, that's a heck of a name. Hopefully I said it right. If I didn't, Frederick, feel free to write in at us as well. So great showing. Like I said, this team really does have some star power. That was those 6 names that we read off in the top 22 of a tournament. That's something that they could very well do at ACCs this year. Yeah. Probably our best shot to win an ACC title this year is the golf team, as it feels like it is in a lot of years. I wouldn't be counting out any of the other spring sports yet because everyone's got a chance as long as baseball finishes in the top 12 and softball in the top 10 or 12, whichever one that winds up being this year. I can't remember I think it's 10 because there's only 13 teams. But once those are met, everyone's got a chance. But golf is definitely at the top of the list, and even to win it all, like we saw, they can play. Maybe not as at the consistency of Vandy having the past weekend, but they certainly played extremely well this past week. This week they're at Southern Highlands through 2 days. I believe they're +6, tied for 10th. They're still ahead of the folks from out east in Athens, so jokes on them. But kind of like we said, maybe that consistency isn't quite there with maybe the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams.
Yep, for sure. To hell with Georgia. One softball note I just found: wear gold if you come to the game tomorrow. They're gonna do a gold out against Georgia. Yes.
One more softball thing for the I-75 tournament. While I have it in mind, it's very interesting to give it a little perusal, Jack, because the Southern Miss Golden Eagles that will be playing this weekend are conveniently right within 1/100th of Georgia Tech in the Massey. So that would be the game to watch. I forgot to mention that earlier. Southern Miss game to watch this weekend if you're going to try and catch softball.
Good to know. All right, baseball. Finally, we're here. They had a lovely weekend against Tennessee Tech. Swept them. I know we're an hour in. All right, let's get through this. They're now 16th in the country via collegiate baseball. They're unranked right now, still in the D1 rankings, but still very early, and we haven't exactly played like really strong competition yet, but that's fine. This says, have Jack guess the Massey ranking. He's back again, this old Massey. What is the Massey ranking? Oh, for baseball, Jake, I'm going to just say it's, I don't know, 26?
No, it's high. It's better than that.
Oh, that's good. 16.
Nope.
12?
Keep going.
Whoa, 5?
Keep going.
2?
Okay, down a little bit.
Okay, 4.
Yeah, we're at 4 in the Massey ratings. So Massey does composites for college football, basketball, and baseball, which is basically just a flat average of a bunch of different rankings for football. It's like 70 of them. But he does also do baseball, so that allows us a nice kind of comparison to what college baseball, collegiate baseball is thinking. They have us at 16. Massey, kind of at the top end, has us at 4, which is the highest ranking that I've seen us in. But in terms of the other rankings, you can see Splunty has us at 22. That's another ratings type service. More at 46, similar there. And then Preve CBR, college baseball ranking, has us 31. All the major polls, so the coaches perfect game and D1, and then also the baseball writers poll have not released or have not included us. So certainly a wide spread there, I'd say. Georgia Tech in Massey's poll or the composite, sitting right around 26. So certainly a lot of data points to draw on there. A lot of different opinions on baseball coming into the year.
As we mentioned earlier, Despina hit a homer in all 3 games. Jake DeLeo hit another homer in Friday's game. Despina's just murdering the ball from the left side of the plate over the trees in right field. So that's just fun to see if you ever had a game. Just if you don't get a ticket for a game, I mean, there's that spot at the corner of the street of a First and Fowler where you can kind of get a good view. But I would be turned and ready to run towards anything down that road when Despina's up, because you never know where the ball is going to land. I want to mention game 1's when it was a 12-3 blowout, but Dawson Brown threw 6 innings, 4 hits, 3 earned runs, three total runs, but he struck out 12, and he was just nailing the strike zone the entire time. It was the most strikeouts by a starter since Brant Herter struck out 13 against Northwestern in 2019. That was March 2019. And the team record for strikeouts in a game is 19. They finished with 18 that day. Apparently, we've done this 7 times since 2019, where we've fallen 1 strikeout short of the team record, which is remarkable, but that's what's happening. And Ben King had a good outing to kind of all the pitchers had good outings after that to kind of clean things up. And then game two, 110-4. Logan McGuire started, but he came out hurt after an inning and a third. I did not do enough research to see what hurt specifically. I'm just gonna guess the arm. Don't really know. Finateri pitched 4 innings after though and cleaned that up on route to that win. And then on Sunday we won 11-7. I think that was a tight one for a while before it got there. Jack Rubenstein went 5 for 5 from the plate though, and Ben King had another good outing. So it's things are looking up. The hitting's there. That's for darn sure.
Yep.
The pitching, I know in our chat we were like, wait a second, Dawson Brown, he's starting. What's going on here? And then he just throws an absolute gem. Defensive issues. That's what it was. Defensively, we were having some trouble on Sunday in Game 3. That much I remember. Some errors.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that whether it's pitching or fielding, we've kind of relied in the past on hitting to bail us out, if you will.
Yeah.
And that was something that did concern me a little bit after Miami series. Granted, Tennessee Tech, I probably would not say is all that great. I would say
No.
Miami's sitting at like 270 in Massey, but Tennessee Tech's like 194. So not that we've played the best teams in the world yet. But coming back from 4-0 down to score 10 unanswered runs is game two comes very quickly to mind. And it seems like for whatever reason, they've really consolidated a lot of, I guess, if you will, firefighter type arms in the bullpen. So I don't know if I think that it's the most sustainable. Like I don't want to be bailing the defense of the pitching out. From early holes in every game, because it kind of seems like we've done that a couple times. The 10-4 win come to mind, the 11-7 win come to mind, the Georgia Southern game comes to mind.
Putting my manager cap on, it's okay. So I think in general, well, actually no. Brian Snicker did this in the World Series. I don't know if you remember I'm gonna say it was game 4. Do you remember the game 4 starter against the Houston Astros?
I mean,
it was.
I probably would if you said it.
It was Dylan Lee.
That's probably why I don't remember it, because
exactly.
I went to game 5. That was Max Fried was the last at bat ever for a National League pitcher, right?
No, he pitched game 6. He pitched the winning game in Houston.
Well, but whoever pitched there, that was the last at bat for a pitcher. So that's all I remember.
Dylan Lee, he was a reliever. He did a spot start through 2 innings, but basically the idea was they needed to do a bullpen game, but didn't want to use the arms at the beginning and then not have any good arms at the end, just in case they really needed them. Basically, so the hope was, if you know the bats are going to be hot, just let them cook and give yourself a buffer to where you can not exactly where if there's a mini implosion, you can survive a mini implosion, and I think that'd be my guess is where Danny Hall's mind is at right now. Is like, if he knows that bats are going to get him 8 runs a game, it's better to hopefully you score early. You're betting on the scoring happening early and giving yourself time to catch up if you need to, if there's going to be a pitching blow up, because you don't have the arms to necessarily carry you through a weekend series to not have to worry about that. So you got to pick and choose where the possible blow ups are going to happen. I would much rather have that in the first 3 innings of the game than the last 3 innings of the game, despite the fact that it kind of did happen the last 3 innings of a game last weekend, or the weekend before the Tennessee Tech game, but we were already up by enough because the bats did the job. So I think managing-wise, I think I'm okay with this for now, just because it's like, well, it gives you a better shot to win to have more time to hit and do what you need to do. So, but yeah, I think it was Busey. He seems to be the main guy coming out of the pen at the end. So
and then you got Finateri kind of being a long innings guy too.
And he did that in game 2. Coming up, they play long. Oh yes, one more thing.
I was gonna say, the big thing that we have to think about this week related to that is not only do we play Long Island, as you were about to say, but also Kennesaw State. So we'll make it very interesting come the weekend, and saving those arms. So feeds right into what we're about to say.
Yes. LAU on Tuesday. It'll be interesting, which is today if you're listening. So it'll be interesting who they throw. 6 p.m. start. Did they announce who they were going to start? They may have already announced that. Did they?
They put up their,
Let me see if it's in our site.
the classic. Here are the matchups. Here's how you can
Smith is starting tomorrow.
watch. Okay. Oh yes, Dalton Smith will get the start on Tuesday. I don't see anything about Wednesday. One thing I want to say about this weekend, it's the new age game/game in Athens/game in Lawrenceville type deal that they've been doing. I was driving around the city on Sunday, Jack. I know this is not revolutionary because we all drive lots of places. We live in Atlanta. And I saw this billboard. I was on 17th. I was going past IKEA. Everyone mostly knows where that is. And they have this electric billboard that flashes various things. You see Hawks ads, you see Braves ads, blah, blah, blah. And I saw an advertisement for a 2-game series that is happening at Truist Park, right? The Braves baseball stadium, a place where Georgia Tech has played 1 game a year up until, I guess, 2020 ski lift or ski ramp thing, destroying the field, whatever, forcing the game to be played in Lawrenceville. But FAMU, Florida A&M from Tallahassee, and Grambling from certainly even further away are playing a 2-game set at Truist. And it boggles my mind why Athens and Georgia Tech cannot get their equally large, locally based fan bases into the build. Like, I've got nothing inherently against the city of Lawrenceville, but you cannot tell me that there's a better atmosphere with more things to do and greater options and more fans that can fit in the stadium in Lawrenceville at Coolray Park on Sunday than they'd be able to get at Truist. For a Sunday game at Truist, that would be phenomenal, Jack. There'd be 40,000 people there.
Yeah, that'll be. I might have to look into that and see what the reasoning was. I assume there has to be some sort of business. I think it'd be more of a businessy reason why that's happening more than anything. It could also be on the Braves. It could be neither teams actually wanting this, and the Braves just wanted to do something different. I don't know.
Jack, do you know what the proceeds for the 3rd game of this series go to?
I do not know where they go.
They all go to charity. I believe it's Choa. Don't misquote me there. But the 3rd game, the neutral game series.
Well, it's good. Okay.
Like,
yeah, so it really does incentivize to do it that way. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It just feels like I'm gonna look it up here. Georgia
for the weekend series,
baseball.
we play at Georgia first, and then Saturday's game is at Rush Chandler McNeese Park, and then the Lawrenceville game is the 3rd game on Sunday.
Yeah. The Spring Classic for kids. Choa.
All right, there you go.
Why not play to Truist? The kids will get even more money, and it would be a better venue.
Good questions all around. I'll see what I can find out. Any other final baseball-related notes? I think we're almost out. We'll do one little bit on men's lacrosse because they had a pretty important game too.
All I'm saying is if we can speak this game back into being at the Battery, then it will join the list of speaking the McCamish volleyball game into existence in terms of my personal fake accolades.
Yeah, I think you'll be getting more McCamish volleyball games if I had to guess, just in general. I think that's it for baseball. I'll try to be there on Saturday, so if you find me, say hi there as well.
Same.
I assume you'd be at that game. Men's lacrosse. They played the preseason number 1 South Carolina and won 12-7. Big game there. Makes it one of the only Tech teams in recent memory to beat a number 1 team in anything. At all.
I don't think they're currently ranked number 1. I think it was number 11 what I saw. So I think they've taken a loss or two to start the year. But certainly, Virginia Tech's at number 1. They moved up 3 spots in the polls. Florida State had moved up 33 spots in the polls to be number 3 behind Georgia Tech. So not really sure how they must have been beating some crazy teams. But you had South Carolina. They've fallen 11 spots since the start of the year, down to number 12, was it? And then Clemson is who Georgia Tech also played this weekend, was not ranked.
Gotcha. They won that game 17-14 after being down from behind, down 8-4 at one point. So big old win there. Excuse me. Okay, I think we're gonna skip trivia again, sadly, because we have gone long enough. Spring is they bring us so many sports in springs. I'm sorry. This is like Lindsey Buckingham at the end of What's Up with That in SNL. They just never get to it. Poor guy.
Yep.
I think that's all we got. So take us home, as Mr. Akshay would say.
Yep. My outro, I'm just going to give a quick shout out. I think as a podcast, I'd love for us to do more shout outs to individual cool things we saw. Mine, I'm backdating it a week. I saw the longest home run that I've ever seen in about 65 games attended at Mewborn, hit by Taylor Roby of Louisville last week. This week, she went on to break their all-time home run records. So congrats to her. The
cool.
all-time Louisville slugger, I think is how they called it. But, very, very fun. And hopefully we see even longer home runs from only our team there this year.
Sarah Beth, we're looking at you.
Yeah, please, whoever, really, just hit the weight room. And in the meantime, it has been a long episode, but you can find us as always at fromtherumbleseat.com. We post articles with this that go up for you to comment and read. I know we've gotten some feedback in the past about transcribing the episodes. That would be great if AI could read names and also not make lots of mistakes. So working on it, exploring that, TBD, but who knows, maybe someday. In terms of other ways to contact us, you can find us via email from therumbleseat@gmail.com. You can track us down in person at sporting events. It's happened to us multiple times lately, so please give us your feedback there. We would love to chat about that. You can find us on Twitter at FTRS blog. I'm at Jake Grant 98. Jack is at Jack Nicholas. You can find Section 103 also on Twitter at Section 103 or at section103.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at From the Rumble Seat, and you can find podcasts wherever fine podcasts are sold and distributed. Again, please rate, review, comment, subscribe your friends. We all appreciate it. But in the meantime, have a great week. Good night, good luck, and go.